Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving deep into one of the most fascinating periods of history, a time when Europe held its breath every time a shadow appeared on the horizon. We're talking about the Vikings, and specifically the game changer that transformed them from scattered tribes into a force that reshaped an entire continent. Forget the axes and the shields for a moment, because their true secret weapon wasn't made of fire or steel, though they certainly mastered both. It was something far simpler, yet far more devastating. The Viking longship. Imagine it. The early medieval centuries, a time when most ships were slow, clumsy cargo vessels hugging the coastline. Then, seemingly out of nowhere, these sleek, silent, unstoppable vessels began to appear. Monasteries along the English coast, peaceful havens of learning, suddenly found themselves face to face with what they could only describe as dragons, gliding across the sea, carrying demons that killed without mercy. Those dragons, they were longships, and they were unlike anything the world had ever seen. This wasn't just a boat, it was a masterpiece of engineering, a technological marvel of its time. Built from sturdy oak, its planks overlapped like scales, a technique called clinker building. This wasn't just for looks, it gave the ship incredible strength and flexibility, allowing it to withstand the fiercest North Sea storms. While other ships lumbered along, the Viking longship sliced through open waters and, crucially, could navigate rivers barely deep enough to wet its keel. It was light enough for a crew to carry it over land if needed, and fast enough to strike before enemies even knew what was happening. We're talking speeds of up to 15 knots, absolutely unheard of in the Middle Ages. This shallow draft was a total game-changer. It allowed Vikings to sail right up major European rivers like the Seine, the Thames, and even deep into the Volga. Cities that believed themselves safe behind hundreds of miles of land suddenly found themselves vulnerable. In the blink of an eye, the longships would appear. Raiders would strike, plunder, and then vanish back into the mist just as quickly as they arrived. Europe's defenses, built for slow, land-based armies, were utterly useless against this kind of lightning mobility. But the brilliance of the longship wasn't just about raw speed. Its design was a reflection of the entire Viking way of life and their ingenious philosophy. Think about this. Every longship was symmetrical. This meant it could move forward or backward without having to waste precious time turning around. Imagine how invaluable that was in narrow rivers or when making a quick tactical retreat. And the steering oar, always mounted on the right-hand side, gave them a level of precision control that most European ships simply couldn't match. Even their sails, crafted from woven wool treated with animal fat, were designed to harness the North Atlantic's unpredictable winds with remarkable efficiency. Each longship wasn't just a vessel, it was a floating community, a home away from home. The crew worked as one, a single unified force. Every man rowed, every man fought. There was no real separation between sailor and warrior. The ship was both a home and a weapon, a powerful symbol of freedom and ferocity. For the Vikings, sailing was more than just a means of transport. It was an act of identity. Their very mythology reflected this. To die at sea or in battle was to die with honor, to join Odin himself in the halls of Valhalla. Now let's talk about the psychological impact, because this was perhaps the longship's greatest weapon. Try to put yourself in the shoes of a simple farmer in 9th century England. You're working your land, perhaps by the coast or near a river. Suddenly you hear a distant rhythmic sound of oars splashing, the creak of wood, the hiss of wind on canvas. Then, slowly, terrifyingly, a line of serpent-headed ships emerges from the fog. The sheer sight alone was often enough to send entire villages fleeing in panic before a single axe was even raised. The Vikings understood this deeply. They cultivated fear as much as they wielded it. Those fearsome dragon-headed prows weren't just for decoration, they were psychological warfare, designed to terrify their enemies into submission before the first confrontation even began. It was a masterclass in intimidation, and it worked wonders. The longship didn't just facilitate raids, it also made the Vikings the greatest explorers of their age. These incredible vessels carried them far beyond the known borders of Europe, across the treacherous North Atlantic to Iceland, Greenland, and even, astonishingly, to North America. centuries before Columbus ever dreamed of setting sail. And it wasn't just about raiding and discovery. With the same versatile vessels, they established vast trade routes that stretched from their Scandinavian homelands all the way to Byzantium and even Baghdad. The very technology that struck terror into Christian monasteries also opened up paths for unprecedented commerce, diplomacy, and world-changing discovery. The entire Viking Age, with all its glory and its fearsome reputation, was truly built on the back of these extraordinary ships. What truly made the longship revolutionary was its incredible adaptability. The Vikings didn't just build one type of ship, they developed different variations, each perfectly suited for a specific purpose. You had the Carve, smaller and absolutely perfect for quick coastal raids. Then there was the Knar, a wider, sturdier vessel specifically designed for long-distance trade and cargo. And, of course, the legendary Drakar, the awe-inspiring warship of kings built for battle and intimidation. Each model had its specialized role, but they all shared the same fundamental DNA: speed, maneuverability, and an unparalleled ability to conquer both the open sea and winding rivers. Even the way these ships were constructed was an art form, a craft passed down through generations. Viking shipwrights worked without blueprints, without nails, and certainly without any modern tools. Each ship was painstakingly handcrafted by instinct, built from trees carefully chosen for their natural curves to perfectly match the hull's shape. The keel, the very heart of the ship, was a single continuous beam of oak, strong enough to endure the fury of the North Sea. Every joint, every plank was fitted by feel, tightened with animal sinew, and then sealed with tar. When a longship was finally launched, it wasn't just a machine, it was a living thing, a creation bound by sweat, wood, and an unwavering faith in its design. The longship didn't just give the Vikings an edge, it literally gave them an empire. It allowed them to strike virtually anywhere, from the misty shores of Scotland and Ireland, across France and Spain, and even deep into the Slavic lands. It made them masters of surprise and mobility in an age when most armies could barely march 30 miles in a week. Their success wasn't built on overwhelming numbers, but on vastly superior movement and strategic surprise. They didn't just fight wars. They orchestrated them like relentless waves, swift, unpredictable, and devastatingly effective. By the time Europe finally began to learn and adapt, building better fortifications, establishing river patrols, anticipating attacks, the Viking Age was already starting to fade. But their influence, however, remained profound. The ship designs they pioneered laid the crucial groundwork for centuries of naval innovation that followed. The very concept of a fast, versatile, ocean-going vessel would later inspire European exploration and the eventual rise of great maritime empires. The longship was truly the beating heart of Viking civilization, part war machine, part cultural symbol, and a spiritual vessel all in one. It was how a scattered people from the cold north carved their indelible name into history, becoming both feared and, in many ways, deeply admired. And for nearly 3 centuries, that simple, elegant weapon, the longship, made Europe tremble every single time the tide began to turn. It wasn't the sword or the axe that truly built the Viking legend. It was the haunting sound of oars disappearing into the fog, and the terrifying sight of dragon prows gliding out of the mist. What do you think was the most incredible feature of the longship? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this journey into Viking history, please hit that like button, subscribe for more epic historical deep dives, and ring the notification bell so you don't miss our next adventure. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.